presentation, 4 minutes to make a presentation. After that, we will take, after all candidates have presented, then we will then go to a round-robin Q&A, and people will be able to ask, the members will ask questions. The questions are limited to 30 seconds. Your response is limited to 2 minutes. At the end of the Q&A period, we'll have a 2-minute summation that each of you can make, and then we'll take the vote. So who have I got? First on here is Jim Hogan, and I have not seen Jim Hogan. We've communicated with him as we have all of those. And these I took, the way I got the order was off the Secretary of State's website. So Sid Miller, you are up first.
Well, good morning, Patriots.
Good morning.
It's good to be with you. I am your Texas Agriculture Commissioner. I'm the incumbent. I 8th generation farmer and rancher. I make my living still off the land in Stephenville, Texas, where I raise cattle, horses, and grow various crops. I'm a graduate of Tarleton State University with a degree in agriculture. I was actually an ag teacher for 5 years, so I know how important the FFA and 4-H is, and I like to tell everyone that our greatest natural resource in this state are our youth. We put a big emphasis on that at the Texas Department of Agriculture. I'm an unusual agriculture commissioner. Probably the first time in 40 years we have an agriculture commissioner that is actually engaged and wants to be the ag commissioner, is not an ag commissioner that's actually running for a higher office. I want to be the best ag commissioner that Texas ever had, and I'm working hard to do that. And I hope whoever follows me is a lot better than I am, because that's what Texas deserves. I'd like to tell you a little bit about what we've done in the last 3 years. When I got to the agency, we were $18 million in deficit. And the agency had been run in the past, you, the taxpayer, were subsidizing farmers and businesses. Half for the services we provided, the money came from you, the taxpayer, and the other half came from those businesses and farmers that we provided services to. I changed that. We had to turn that $18 million deficit around, and today I've adjusted those fees, and we're a standalone agency. We pay our own way. No longer are we subsidizing farmers, no longer are the taxpayers being subsidizing businesses. We collect the money to run our organization just like the Railroad Commission does. I reformed the agency. One of the first things I did, our organic certification program had a 2.5-year backlog. I fixed that in 90 days, and it's been running on time ever since. 400,000 fuel pumps that we monitor and regulate and oversee and certify. It was taking over 8 years to get around all those. I've got it down to 24 months. Plus, I've instituted a skimmer protection program where we're cracking down on credit card skimmers. And our inspectors, after rescheduling them, I fired our logistics company. We had an outside company. That saved us $300,000. After reorganizing them, our inspectors are driving 1.5 million miles less. We're getting 40 to 60% inspections done. And on those fuel pumps, I eliminated 16 inspectors, another big savings to our department. It occurred to me that we had a lot of business operating illegally in this state. They weren't registered with the Department of Agriculture, was selling off illegal scales. So I launched Operation Maverick, and we rounded up all the illegal operators across the state. We registered, you're not going to believe this, a little over 7,000 that were operating illegally across our state. Now they're in compliance with the law, and we've brought them in compliance, and they're doing well. I've redone the school lunch program. We're making the school lunchroom great again. I eliminated all the mandates that PD had ever put on our schools, and we're doing things like I challenge schools now to do Farm Fresh Friday. We have Meet the Farmer Day. We're doing school gardens with the little kids. We've instituted a program where we now link up farmers with the schools, and our schools last year bought over $30 million worth of Texas products where they hadn't done that in years past. I'm Sid Miller. Thank you very much. Got a lot more I could tell you, but I'm just about out of time. But I want to be your ag commissioner. I'm honored to have the support of this group, and I hope I earn it today. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you, and next is Trey Blocker.
Thank you, everyone. I am Trey Blocker. I'm a first-time candidate. I'm not a career politician, and jumping from one candidate forum to another, I realized it's a lot like speed dating. I now know what that feels like. I'm a sixth-generation Texan. My forefathers came here in the mid-1800s. They were among some of the most well-respected cattlemen of their time. I'm always fond of telling the story about my great-great-uncle who drove the first herd of cattle onto the XIT ranch and actually gave the ranch its name. So I have a great appreciation for agriculture in rural Texas. I believe it deserves to be preserved and protected and promoted. That being said, this is not a contest to determine who can shoe a horse or brand some cows. This is an election to determine who can run this agency in an ethical manner, in a fiscally conservative manner, and in a fiscally responsible manner. Over the past 3 years, over 100 different fees administered by this department have risen by as much as 500%. Regulation on Texas businesses has increased dramatically. As we all know, these fees and regulations ultimately are costs that get passed on to consumers. There is a reason in this race I am endorsed by the Texas Food and Fuel Association, the Texas Restaurant Association, the Texas Nursery and Landscape Association, the Texas Retailers Association, and the Texas Association of Manufacturers. All of these organizations represent thousands of businesses across the state of Texas that have suffered under the heavy hand of government regulation over the past 3 years. And I believe it's time for a change. As a conservative like you, I believe in lower taxes. I believe in less government. And I want to make those changes at this department. I also want to be an intelligent, articulate voice for our core conservative values. Today, I am the host of a conservative podcast called The Trey Show. I would have named it something different, but I'm not very creative. I'd enjoy for you to check it out. If you want to hear more about what I believe, it's TreyBlockersShow.com. I am also the president of the Civil Liberties Defense Foundation, which is an organization I founded in 1999 to defend the Second Amendment. At the time, we had 31 liberal mayors across the country suing gun manufacturers, trying to put them out of business and infringe upon our Second Amendment rights. Today, we're using CLDF to sue sanctuary cities and restore law and order to our Texas cities and make our communities safe again. This is a track record that I'm extremely proud of. I want to bring this philosophy to the Department of Agriculture and represent you as a statewide elected official. You can check out more about me at TreyBlocker.com. I would greatly appreciate your vote today and your support on March 6th. Thank you very much. God bless.
We will now go to open questions, and each of you will have 2 minutes to respond. The delegates can ask a question either of both or of either. If they ask of one candidate, they can let the other one respond after that. Your questions are limited to 30 seconds, so make them concise. Steve, I think you had your hand up first.
Have either of you gentlemen...
Steve Atwell.
Steve Atwell.
Terry.
Have either of you gentlemen given money to Democrat politicians or causes or voted in the Democrat primary?
I'll take that. He's working. I will take that question first. So, I originally got my start in politics as a college Republican. The first race I ever worked on was for Oliver North when he was trying to defeat a liberal Democrat in Virginia. Unfortunately, he lost that race. Once I graduated college, became an intern for Governor Bush. I worked for 3 very conservative members of the Texas legislature over 10 years, including Susanna Hupp, who is considered the mother of the Texas concealed handgun law. And from there, I went on to start a very successful ethics and legislative consulting practice. So for over a decade, I have advised politicians on how to be ethical. Oftentimes that gets quite a laugh out of people, but we all deserve to have ethical politicians, and I'm glad to have done my part in that regard. I have also been a lobbyist for the past 10 years, have represented a number of different agricultural organizations, as well as Fortune 100 companies like AT&T. As part of that job, I have given money to Democrats. As Donald Trump has said, it's part of doing business sometimes. My opponent has tried to label me as a Democrat for these contributions, but I haven't heard him make the same accusation against President Trump, and I doubt that he would. Thank you for the question.
You know, I know Donald Trump. Donald Trump's a friend of mine. Trey Blocker, you know Donald Trump, believe me. I have never given a Democrat, I've never voted Democrat primary. My colleague over here, he's apparently lost his way because he's voted in, he didn't tell you this, but he's voted in the Democrat primary. Beginning of the session, he gave the Democrat Party $2,500 so they could fight the sanctuary city bill. He's a consultant for several Democrats in the House. He's given them tens of thousands of dollars in donations. And in the race for lieutenant governor, between Dan Patrick and Letitia Vanderpute, he wrote Letitia Vanderpute a check. So here's, I think you just need to be straight up and honest about it. I wouldn't call him Rhino. He's a Democrat. I mean, that's just what he is. So I'll just run on my record. I've never given to a Democrat or helped a Democrat in any way, shape, or form.
Let me say to each of you, in terms of rebutting what the other said, that's not at this point, but in the summation, you've got 2 minutes. So you can deal with that. Other questions? Joe?
Joe Barnett, in Tarrant County. I'd like to ask Mr. Blocker, do you think consumers have the right to know if their food is genetically modified?
GMOs are an important issue these days, and we have several biotech companies in America that have come up with great technologies that are helping to feed the world. I actually have done consulting work for Monsanto over the years, and I'm actually quite proud of the work that they do feeding the world. Some people have concerns about genetically modified foods, and if they do, luckily the free market is taking care of that issue. And you can't go into a grocery store these days without finding plenty of products on the shelf that are certified non-GMO, if that's of interest to you. What I have fought against over the years is mandatory labeling for food manufacturers. We have corn syrup, soybeans, and corn starch in just about every food product on the shelf, and to force manufacturers to label those food products would increase the cost of that food for consumers. And so I have fought against that. Luckily, the free market has taken care of that issue. If for whatever reason you think GMOs are not safe, which there's no scientific evidence, by the way, proving that GMO foods are not safe, but if for whatever reason you're concerned about that, there are plenty of non-GMO certified products on the shelf.
As far as that goes, here's what you really need to realize. Mr. Blocker is a lobbyist for Monsanto. He had a very lucrative lobby career. He is unregistered as a lobbyist, but he still owns his lobby firm. He's still active. They still represent Monsanto. So if he's elected and becomes Commissioner of Agriculture, we oversee all the registration, all of the pesticides, including everything that Monsanto makes. And we set the rules and regulations and guidelines and what's on the label. So Monsanto would have their guy sitting right at the head of the agency that oversees them. So you need to realize that. Thank you.
Questions? Kurt.
Okay. Kurt Hyde, I'm from the Denton County. Okay. My question has to do with something I read in the newspaper. I believe a European Union company, Bayer, correct me if I'm wrong, that Bayer now controls Monsanto. And considering Monsanto is so important in seeds and in agricultural chemicals, do you see anything of that potential problems with a foreign influence over the Texas and the food supply?
There is my turn to go first. There is, Monsanto Bayer is trying to take over and do a merger between Monsanto and Bayer. It has not happened yet. There's 30 countries that have to approve that merger. I'm certainly against that. It would create a monopoly and put the American farmer at a great disadvantage, and they would have very little choice in their seeds that they purchase. Chemicals would be monopolized. Bad for the American consumer because it's going to drive up the cost of groceries and food. So I do not support that, and I've said that publicly before.
We have 6 major biotech companies in the country, basically in the world today. Right now, we have a proposed merger between Bayer and Monsanto, a merger that's going on between Dow and DuPont, and another merger that's going on with Syngenta. And when you take 6 very big companies and combine them into 3, that absolutely has a potential threat on the free market. That kind of consolidation can lead to higher costs for farmers, and it's something that definitely needs to be prevented. My suspicion, and I don't work at the Justice Department, but I suspect that the Justice Department will look at all 3 of these mergers simultaneously and ultimately require most of these companies to spin off certain assets and certain product lines so that we can ensure that there is no monopoly and that the free market is healthy and that there's competition within the market so that farmers are protected.
Joel Kraus, Denton County. First of all, I believe in the future of agriculture, not in the faith of words, but of deeds. And I want to ask, what has the impact of NAFTA done with the Texas agriculture, and do you oppose or do you support NAFTA?
I certainly support NAFTA. I've been working with the Trump administration prior to him even being elected. In Laredo, Texas, we have 17 ports. Between the state of Texas and the state of Tamaulipas, there's 80% of NAFTA comes through those 17 ports. $1 billion per day. 14,000 trucks going and coming across those ports. So it's a huge deal. NAFTA is more important to Texas than any other deal. That's why I have made personal relationships with the governor, Francisco Cabeza de Vaca. Made several trips down there, had him in my office. I have to take the same approach to NAFTA as Donald Trump. Mine's maybe a little kinder and gentler, but we need to get a good deal. We don't have a good deal. That document's 22 years old. Markets have changed, economies have changed, consumers' consumption have changed, so it does need to be updated. We're certainly going to work as hard as we can. I'll tell you this, I spent a week in Denver at the Tri-National Agriculture Card representing Texas on NAFTA. Our problem is not Mexico, it's Canada. They're the ones that are stubborn and hard-headed. And if NAFTA falls through, I'm just going to tell you, it's going to be the Canadians that trip it up. It won't be the United States, in my opinion, or will it be Mexico. But it's very important to us. I've met several times with the Secretary of Agriculture from Mexico to work on this project. It has a high priority. It's one of the things that farmers and ranchers all across the nation are highly interested in, and it's a very, very hot topic.
Free trade is absolutely important to the economy of not only Texas but of America. Unfortunately, currently we are running a $50 billion trade deficit, which means NAFTA could be improved. I actually had somebody ask me the question the other day, President Trump has said he's going to take us out of NAFTA. Well, I think we both have learned enough about President Trump at this point to realize that he's a really good negotiator. And I don't think he's going to do away with NAFTA. I think that's a first step, a first move in his negotiation to make sure that we get a better deal so that we can create more of a trade balance and hopefully do more exporting than we do importing. And I have faith in President Trump to get that done, and I will certainly support him in those efforts.
I'm going to try to get around. Okay, Ruth, go ahead.
Okay. Well, being the Latino liberator, Ruth Armfield from Denton County Republican Assembly, I had the immigration question. Basically, the H-2A visa, what do you think about it? The E-Verify? open markets, we as Republicans, we believe in open markets. The immigrants are coming through the border illegally. How would you fix that issue? I mean, the wall, do you think is what we need? Or, I mean, what do we do with the immigration? We need their work, but we want to give priority to the American workers first. So.
Throw it to Trey first.
Absolutely, that's a great question. So there are three things that we need to do. First and foremost, we need border security, right? And I think we can achieve border security with three things. One, physical barriers. Two, electronic surveillance. And three, boots on the ground. The combination of these things will go a long way to securing our border. Secondly, we do need workers. Farmers and ranchers need workers. The construction industry needs workers. The current H-2A, H-2B systems don't work very well. They're laborious, they're ineffective, they're costly, and we need a revised worker visa bill. Congressman Goodlatte from Virginia last year filed a bill to create an H-2C program, which would be a streamlined program, much more efficient, much more cost-effective, that would allow Texas businesses to get the workers they need, keep their businesses going, keep the economy moving forward. I also support broader reform than that. I think our immigration system as a whole is broken. I support Senator Tom Cotton's bill that would cut legal immigration in half, would end the chain migration system, would end the visa lottery system, and would establish a merit-based immigration system that puts America and Americans first. I would point out that my opponent, when he was in the House, voted for in-state tuition for illegal immigrants and has said that we should consult with Mexico before we build a border wall. We have to reduce and eliminate the magnets that exist here in the country that encourage further illegal immigration, and I will do everything within my power to help achieve that.
Let me just say this. DACA, no amnesty, no citizenship. Okay? We're going to build a wall. And what he said is a lie. I didn't ask for Mexico's permission to build a wall. What I told him was, we're going to build a wall, and you're going to pay for it. So you might as well get on board and have a say about it, because it's coming. That's exactly what I told him. In-state tuition, I didn't vote for in-state tuition. If I did, everybody else in the House did too. It passed unanimously in the House and unanimously in the Senate. Jay Nelson had language that said, in addition to being a Texas resident for 2 years and graduating from a Texas high school or equivalent, you must be a citizen or on the pathway to citizenship. And I voted for that. So did his boss. He was chief of staff for a legislator then, and he recommended that his boss vote for it, and she did on his recommendation. Amnesty is not in my vocabulary, but we do need a workable H-2A, H-2B program. Those need to be expanded. What happens, those programs, we have H-2A, and they get up here, and then they disappear into the shadows. There's no way to trace them. And then that's a spot that can't be filled, and we don't have those agriculture workers. So we need to have a carrot on the end of the stick to make them report back. And I would do that by a withholding from their paycheck. 15%, the number crunchers can get the right number, I don't know what it is, but at the end of their 10 or 11 months, they could redeem that if they went back to Mexico and reported back in. If they're not, they lose it. That's it.
Jill?
Jill Glover, Denton County Republican Assembly. You mentioned that when you took office, you had gotten rid of the backlog of organic certification. How would you describe, now I hear from both of you, how would you describe the Texas Agriculture Commission stance or support of organic farming in Texas? And are there onerous regulations, or are you doing things to make it better for the consumer to be able to purchase organic things at a cheaper price because you're not so heavily regulated?
One thing I do as commissioner, and we do a lot of marketing. We haven't talked about that. We have a great marketing program. I put in a global outreach initiative, which has been very successful. The first 12 months, we're on every continent on the globe marketing Texas. But when it comes to organics, or free-range chickens, or any of that stuff, we pick winners, and then we pick winners. We don't pick any, we're for everybody. We like to raise everybody up. There's certainly a great market for our organic farmers in this state. So we make those avenues as easy and as possible. That's why our response rate has turned around from 2.5 years to current, what would normally be expected, about 120 days. Time we send off the leaf samples and get the leaf analysis and all that back, we can have somewhat run about 120 days. That's very important. But we're also the Consumer Protection Agency. So when you pick up a gallon of organic milk, we're going to make absolutely sure that it has no hormones or no antibiotics in it, because we owe that to the consumer, not just to the farmer, but we're also the Consumer Protection Agency. So we take that very, very seriously. But we do that with all kinds of other entities too, whether it be conventional low-fence deer breeders or high-fence deer breeders. We're for all of them. They all add to the Texas economy. So that's kind of my philosophy. We're going to pick winners, and we're going to pick more winners.
I believe Texas farmers should be allowed to choose whether they want to grow organic crops or any other kind of crops that they want to. And I think we've got a great system and a great free market where they're allowed to do that. There's no doubt that there's a market for organic crops. We need to promote that and support that in whatever way we can. And, the free market in the state of Texas is alive and well. And I think at the Ag Department, we need to continue reducing burdensome regulations so that farmers can get their products to market, whether they be organic or other.
I had some back here. Oh, we're only going to be able to take one more question to stay on our timeline. Paul?
Paul Lager, Tarrant County Republican Assembly. I'm a great believer in the truth in advertising. So my question is to candidate Miller. Are the claims made in your campaign flyer 100% accurate? Yes or no? Thank you.
The statements made in my flyer are 100% accurate. The ones in his flyer are 100% fake news.
Trey?
You don't have my flyer in front of you, but the fact of the matter is everything that is on my website is 100% accurate. Everything on my website is documented. You can go to treyblocker.com to check it out. You can also go to can'ttrustsid.com to check out our statements on his record. And all of those are hyperlinked to actual documents that discuss him raising fees by as much as 500%. It links to the state auditor's report that discusses these fees and discusses that the fees generated $7 million more than is allowed by law and $7 million more than is necessary to run these programs. Also very well documented on can'ttrustsid.com is his multiple ethical transgressions over the years since he's been elected. As you all know, he used state resources to go to Oklahoma to get a Jesus shot. He used state resources to go to Mississippi to compete in a rodeo. Since 2007, when he was in the House, up until 2017, there have been at least 5 instances where the Texas Ethics Commission has found him guilty of numerous ethical transgressions. All of those are well documented on my website. Folks, I don't think it's too much to ask that we have ethical public servants, and I would hope that you will take that into consideration when making your decision today.
Okay, we'll now go to summation. You've got 2 minutes. You can cover anything that you've talked about or why we should hire you for this job. We'll go in the reverse order. Trey, you're up.
Well, thank you very much for your time. As the old saying goes, government is run by those who show up. So thank you for showing up. This is an important election, and I appreciate all of you taking the time and consideration and the time to educate yourself on the issues important to this office and our state. I will first address a couple of comments that my opponent made. I am not a Democrat, and I doubt he would accuse President Trump of being a Democrat, even though President Trump gave hundreds of thousands of dollars to Democrats over the years as part of his business. 80% of the contributions I have made over the past decade have been to Republican candidates and causes. And if for whatever reason we're going to use that as a litmus test, you should know that I have given 1,000 times more contributions to Republicans and Republican causes than my opponent has. I am running for this office to restore honesty, integrity, and fiscal responsibility to the Department of Agriculture. I will lower the fees that have been raised over the past 3 years and are hurting businesses across the state. I will reduce the bureaucracy. That agency has accumulated programs over the past numerous years that have nothing to do with agriculture. I don't think the department should be in the business of regulating skills at Starbucks. I don't think they should be in the business of weighing lottery balls. And I don't think they should be harassing barbecue restaurants across the state. These are all issues that need to be addressed, and I think we need ethical representation in this office. And I think we need somebody who's going to be an articulate, intelligent voice for our conservative values. I encourage you to go to treyblocker.com to learn more about my views. I encourage you to go to can'ttrustsid.com to see what his track record looks like over the 3 years, and it is very well documented. I would appreciate your support today. Thank you.
Sid Miller of Summation.
Thank y'all for coming out today, and just to clear up a few things, I don't think Donald Trump votes in the Democrat primary, Trey. He mentioned audit, where I collected $7 million. Remember that, those things I said, like we are driving 1.5 million miles less, and we registered 7,000 new businesses, and all that. That's where the extra money comes. It was savings, and we're actually passing that back on to the farmers we serve and the businesses in lowering some of those fees. So we didn't overcharge. We hit it right on the money, just like we thought we would. But because efficiencies come in, we do have some extra money, and we're returning that. You know, he mentioned that he was endorsed by a few business groups. Well, they're mad because I took their subsidy away, and they're having to pay it all. But I'm endorsed by Ted Nugent and Rick Perry and Sheriff Joe Arpaio and Joe the Plumber and Michael Quinn Sullivan and Kelly Shackelford, Jim and Elizabeth Graham, Colleen Wright, local here, Jonathan Sines, Julie White McCarty, another local, Tim Lambert, and a whole Maria Espinosa for the Remembrance Project, that big supporter of Trump, that she represents families, victims that been victimized by illegal aliens. So I think for those reasons, I've served as an advisor still to the Trump administration. Put together his Agriculture Advisory Committee. Actually was on the short list to serve in his cabinet. I would be so honored. I've got all these great endorsements, but the very best one could come today. I'd sure love to have your endorsement and your full support. God bless you for what you do for Texas. Thank you very much.